Good morning. So great to see all your faces this morning. Are you guys ready to praise and worship the Lord with me? If you want to stand up. I was thinking about this song while we were rehearsing, and it says, righteous and justified. I was always taught that righteousness means you're in right standing with the Father. And justified means that he made you just as if you've never sinned. So I was like, hey, I like those words, justified and righteous.
Fall like lightning. I see darkness run for cover, but the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven. I believe in signs and wonders. I have resurrection power. Still the miracle that I just can't get over, my name is registered in heaven, and my praise belongs to you forever. Yeah. This is my testimony from death to life. His grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Sons and daughters, bought with blood and washed in water. Sing the praises of the Spirit, Son, and Father. Our God will finish what He started. Yes, our God will finish what He started. Yeah. This is my testimony from death to life. Grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. If I'm not dead, then you're not done. Greater things are still to come. Oh, I believe. This is my testimony from death to life. 'Cause grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. This is my testimony from death to life. His grace rewrote my story. I'll testify. By Jesus Christ the righteous, I'm justified. This is my testimony. This is my testimony. Though your mercy never fails me, all my days I've been held in your hands. From the moment that I wake up until I lay my head, and I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. I love your voice. You have led me through the fire and darkest nights. You are close like no other. I've known you as a father, I've known you as a friend, and I have lived in the goodness of God. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. With my life laid down, I surrender now. I give you everything. Your goodness is running after, it's running after me. 'Cause all my life you have been faithful, and all my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, and I will sing of the goodness of God. And all my life you have been faithful. Thank you, Jesus. All my life you have been so, so good. With every breath that I am able, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God. Oh, I'm gonna sing of the goodness of God.
All right, kids, you can be dismissed. Go learn lots of cool stuff about the Bible and Jesus. Follow the lady in the back with the yellow flag.
Thousand generations falling down in worship, sing the song of ages to the Lamb. And all who've gone before us, and all who will believe, sing the song of ages to the Lamb. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all. And all thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all. And the angels cry, and holy, all creation cries, holy, you were lifted high, and holy, holy forever. If you have been forgiven, and if you have been redeemed, sing the song of ages to the Lamb. And if you walk in freedom, and if you bear His name, we'll sing the song of ages to the Lamb. We'll sing the song forever and amen. And the angels cry, and holy, you are lifted high. And holy, you are lifted high. And holy, you're holy forever. Your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all. Your name, your name, your name is the highest, your name is the greatest, your name stands above them all. All thrones and dominions, all powers and positions, your name stands above them all. And the angels cry, holy, all creation cries, and holy, you are lifted high. Holy, you're holy forever. Hear your people sing, holy to the King of Kings. And holy, you will always be. And holy, you're holy forever. And you will always be holy, holy forever.
Lord, we thank you so much for this time in worship. We thank you that you're redeemed. We thank you that you overcame death in the grave just because you loved us so much. We thank you that we can be righteous, right standing before you, and justified, made just as if we've never sinned. And we love you and we worship you and we give you praise. And we thank you for this wonderful day you've given us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. You may be seated.
Good morning. My name is Scott. I'm on staff here at Hidden Valley. I want to welcome those of you who are watching online, wherever you might be. I want to welcome our Richland Center campus, and then those of you who are here in Dodgeville. Thanks for being here. We're really glad and excited and privileged that you would take, a time out of your busy schedule on a Sunday morning to join us, or if you're online, whatever time of the day you might be joining us. Thanks for being here. So there's a movie that's pretty popular in my family, and I'm guessing it's really popular in lots of people's lives. Yesterday, I told my daughter who's visiting for the weekend, I said, guess what movie I'm going to be talking about in the sermon? And she nailed it. I didn't even have to give her a hint. It's a movie, it's my oldest daughter's favorite movie. It's a movie that a lot of us have watched when we were kids. It's a movie that a lot of us watched with our kids. It's a movie that someday when my grandson gets old enough, we're going to watch it together. It's just a classic. It's a movie, 75 years from now, people will still be watching this movie. And I thought I'd give you a few clues because it's got a lot of great lines. And most of us, you remember, if you've seen the movie once, you're going to remember some of these lines, and immediately you'll know what movie it is. The first line is this: inconceivable. Yeah, you already know. One line, and you already know the movie. This next line: my name is Indigo Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Do you hear I sound like him, don't I? I actually saw this line on a Christmas ornament once, and I almost got it for my daughter. This one: true love is the greatest thing in the world. And it does continue, except for a mutton, lettuce, and tomato sandwich. There's a big difference between mostly dead or all dead. Mostly dead is slightly alive. And then my personal favorite, I wish I could do this justice, marriage is what brings us together. And wouldn't you love it if, copyright laws allowed us to let that guy say it for himself? Because if you've watched the movie, his voice makes it. And by the way, that guy, he has an actual name. He's a character in the movie. His name is the Impressive Clergyman. And if you don't know, the movie is, of course, The Princess Bride. And if you've never watched that movie, you need to do that. It's just that good of a movie. And I know, some of the title, The Princess Bride, you think, oh, yeah, that's the point. It's one of those stories. And you don't think you're going to like it, but you're absolutely going to love it. But we are in the middle of a series called Getting Better Instead of Getting By. So I'm going to borrow, me being a not-so-impressive clergyman, I'm going to borrow that line from the Impressive Clergyman. Are you ready? Marriage is what brings us together today. We're going to talk about marriage. And what would it mean for a marriage to get better? No matter where your marriage is, what would it mean for a marriage to get better? And I know the minute I said marriage, there's different things that popped into each and every one of our heads. Regardless of whether you're married or not, there's just things that kind of immediately jumped in your head. Some of us, this is what we thought: best choice ever. Some of us went the other side of it. That was a mistake. It's not for me. I've never been married, don't plan on it. It's just not for me. Never again. I'd like another shot. First one, or whatever, didn't work. I'd like another shot. Solid as a rock. Or if you're honest, hanging on by a thread. Here's the reality about marriage. It was the first ever human relationship. Adam and Eve. Before Adam and Eve, there was, God and Adam. But the first ever human relationship was a marriage. And guess what? It took a turn for the worse. And it wasn't perfect. And there's no such thing as a perfect marriage. And for those of us who aren't married and have no plans of getting married, the things that we're going to look at today apply to every relationship. And for the rest of us, depending on where you feel about marriage and your thoughts, there's some things that we can learn about relationships, not just marriages. But the goal of this is really to get better. That's what the goal of this entire series is. Get better. It's not perfection. It's not looking and comparing ourselves to somebody else. It's just better. So no matter where your marriage is, no matter where your opinion of marriage is, it can be better. So we're going to look at some lies today that we tell ourselves about marriage. And there's a variety of reasons we tell these lies. Some of it to just get by or whatever. But these are lies that do not contribute to a better marriage, a better relationship of any kind. And remember, these are lies. And we'll look at the truths that kind of we need to think. Here's the first lie, first marriage lie. I can change him or her. I know what her fault. I can change her. I know he's like that. I can change him. I know what will fix him. I know if I do these 2 or 3 things, she'll change. I can fix her. I know there's an issue, but I can fix her. You know, there's a quote that's attributed to Albert Einstein. Quite honestly, he didn't say it, but this is the quote. Women marry men hoping they will change men. Men marry women hoping they will not. So both are inevitably disappointed. And if you look at the picture of Albert Einstein, you know how his wife tried to change him? She wanted him to use a comb. But you notice that? That's kind of true. I know we're stereotyping a little bit. But women marry often. I can change him. And men marry women. I hope she never changes. And both are disappointed. You know, I've done a lot of premarital counseling with couples. And there's something that couples just say that make me want to gag. And if I never hear this again, I'm good. But you know, in the process of marital counseling, we talked about strengths and weaknesses. And invariably, I'll ask him, and then I'll ask her, or I'll ask her, and then I'll ask him. But this is what I'll say. Is there something you'd like to change about your fiancé? And you know what they say? There is nothing I would change about her. There's nothing I would change about him. You know, the immature part of me wants to say, really? Because I can think of a few things. But isn't it, you know, when we're engaged and, you know, we look at each other, there is nothing I would change about you. And it changes over time with marriage, right? You know, she once said, he's flexible, he's laid back, he makes me relax. And then 5 years into marriage, he never cleans up after himself. He doesn't help discipline the kids. My fiance, she is a strong, independent woman. And then after 10 years of marriage, my wife is controlling and nagging. Isn't it interesting that in marriage, and a lot of us know this, that some of the things that first attracted us to one another, we now attack. Laid back and easygoing becomes lazy. Independent, strong-willed becomes nagging and stubborn. And we think they should change. He needs to change. I can change him. She needs to change. I can change her. And so we nag. And she doesn't change. We complain. And he doesn't change. We whine, we cry. He doesn't change. She doesn't change. You know what the biggest lie in marriage is? I can change him. I can change her. And that's not just marriage. It's really in any relationship. I can change him. I will change. I know it. I can change it. It's a lie. You can't change other people. And by the way, there probably are some things about your spouse that should change. The lie is not that there's nothing that can change. The lie is that you can't change them. You may have some pretty legitimate things that need to change in your spouse. You can't change them. There may be some things about your spouse that should change yesterday. You can't change them. Only one thing you can do that will change your spouse, and it's found in James 5:16. The earnest prayer of a righteous person has great power and produces wonderful results. You can pray that your spouse will change. You can't change your spouse. You can pray that he will change. You're not going to change him by nagging. You can pray that she will change. You're not going to change them by complaining. You can pray. And I know that what some of us are saying, yes, God, I tried that. And my spouse got worse. There's more things that have to change about my spouse since I prayed for them. So what's the deal with that? You know, marriage is not a sprint. It's more like a marathon. So's prayer. Prayer's not a sprint. I do it once, and my spouse has changed. You know, Jesus gives an example of what prayer should be like. It's supposed to be like a persistent widow. And in Luke 18:1, it says this. This is Jesus. He told them a parable to the effect they ought to always pray and not lose heart. You keep doing it. And in that parable, he talks about this widow who just keeps on over and over and over and over. Are there things about your spouse that has to change? Probably. You can't change them. But you can pray over and over and over and over. There's a second lie that's kind of the opposite of the first one, but they kind of go hand in hand. The second marriage lie is this: I don't have to change. You see, my husband, my wife, there's this issue that's really causing problems. They need to change. I don't have to change. There's a really big thing in my spouse. He's got to change this. She has to change that. I don't have to change. I don't have to change until. I will change when. I've got a list of 946 things about my spouse that have to change, but I'm scratching my head. I don't know if there's anything about me that has to change. And you know what? Your list of 946 things, it might be legitimate. It might be real. But really, there's nothing about you that has to change? I've worked with a lot of couples. And I'm not talking to your spouse, but I'm talking to you. There's probably at least one thing about you that maybe needs to change. It's a lie. She has to change 100%. He has to change, and I'm good. Most of us know that in relationships, when they kind of go south, when things are a struggle, it takes two. So you want to know a really good prayer for your marriage besides praying for your spouse? And saying, God, change him. God, change her. Here's what she's doing. Here's what he's doing. You know what another part of that prayer ought to be? It's kind of taken from Psalm 139, and it says this: Search me, O God, and know my heart. Try me and know my thoughts. And see if there be any grievous way in me, and lead me in the way of everlasting. This verse really isn't, it's not telling God, hey, God, look at me, because I don't think you can find anything. It's really saying, God, could you shine a light on the part I need to change? Could you show me where I need to change? Here's my list of the 946 ways my spouse needs to change. Could you show me where I need to change? It's a dangerous prayer, because here's what I've learned. God usually answers that one before he answers the first one. And you know, this is what, these first two lies, they're kind of common in marriage. They were there in the first marriage. You know, Adam and Eve, the first marriage, they sinned. And what did they do? It's her fault. His fault. Blame him. Blame her. Nobody said, I was wrong. Nobody said, I need to change. And marriages have been hard ever since. They're work. So the first two lies, I can change you. I can change him. I can change her. I know what your issue is. I can change you. And the second one is this, is you're the only one who's got something to change. I'm good. Here's a third lie that many of us have heard. Here's a marriage lie. A good marriage is 50-50. Ever heard that one? A good marriage is 50-50. So I think I've told this story before, but before Carlene and I got married, the church we were attending, they did decide to have a couples shower for us. And just so you know, I prefer showers where I show up at the end, eat dessert, and take home gifts. But they had a couple shower for us. And so we go to this shower, and then at some point in the evening, one of the wives said, all right, everybody, let's get in a circle, and let's give Scott and Carlene marriage advice. And every husband in the room looked at his wife, and with their eyes, this is what they said: you owe me big time. You know who gave the best advice that day? It was one of the guys. His name is Joel. I have no idea where Joel is now. Thanks, Joel, though. You know what Joel said? Marriage is not 50-50. That's all he said. Marriage is not 50-50. I mean, it sounds good, right? It makes sense. There's two of us. If you give 50, I give 50. That's 100%. Life is good. When your kids go to school, do you tell them, hey, go to school, just give 50% effort? Why did you get that grade on it? I only tried 50%. Well, maybe that's why they're 17 and in fourth grade still. You know, today you're probably going to watch a football game, and if your team loses on the last play of the game and the quarterback says, yeah, we tried 50% to win, you're going to go nuts. If you go to a job interview and you tell the person who's going to hire you, you know, I'm going to show up to work 50% of the time, I'm going to work hard 50% of the time, and then you wonder why you didn't get hired. But 50% is okay in marriage? It sounds good, but really? 50-50 marriage? You know what 50-50 does? It requires that you and I keep score. She did something, so she's ahead. I have to do something. He did two of the good things, so I got to do two good things to make it even. And you know, it's so easy to slip into a 50-50 mindset. You know, I remember when our first daughter, Kate, was born. We had Kate, and then 2 months later, we moved, and I went to seminary, and my wife was able to work on campus, and her work schedule, it gave her flexibility. They were really gracious to us, so she could come home and watch Kate, who was 2.5, 3 months, while I was in class, and then I would come home and take Kate, and she would work, and we'd kind of pass off our daughter, back and forth during the day, multiple times, sometimes during the day. And Kate had this uncanny ability. She would only mess her diapers when she was with me. I mean, it was unreal. I almost believed that Carlene and Kate had worked something out, mom and the 4-month-old, only when you're with dad. And I would keep count during the day how many times I had to change Kate's diaper. I mean, I'd go 1, 2, another number 2, a number 1 and a number 2. And then at night, guess what? We were both tired. I was tired from going to class. She was tired from working. And guess what I kind of expected? You're behind, Carlene. I think you ought to change the diaper 2 or 3 times, to make 50-50 here. It's 50-50. And I got angry because it wasn't 50-50. Marriage it's a lie that marriage is supposed to be 50-50. That first marriage, God said to 2 people, he didn't say, you give 50, you give 50. He said this, the 2 will become one. Can't keep score in marriage. She's up 2, he's up 3. 2. In fact, the only counting that should be done in marriage? Look at Romans 12, 9 through 10. Let love be genuine. Abhor what is evil. Hold fast to what is good. Love one another with brotherhood. Outdo one another in showing honor. What if our goal in marriage was not 50-50, but to outdo your spouse in love, in sacrifice, in honor, in commitment? I mean, how good would that be? Not 50-50. You got to do 1 more, you got to do 2 more, you're behind. What if we just tried to outdo one another in love and goodness and kindness? You know what half-hearted effort on one person's part and half-hearted effort on another person's part is going to lead to? It'll be wholehearted disappointment. Because it's never going to match. Marriage is not 50-50. The 4th marriage lie is this. The little things won't become big things. Yeah, what I do, it's just for me. She doesn't know about it. It's not going to hurt her. The little secret I have, it has no effect on him. What I look at when my spouse isn't there, no big deal. It doesn't matter. It's not going to make a difference. Now that Twitter has changed its name to X, the fact that you X your ex, not a big deal. I've never talked to a couple that had big problems that didn't start as little problems. It's those little issues between couples that over time, what does a little issue become if you don't deal with it? It becomes a big issue. It kind of grows. It doesn't matter. It's not going to show up. It doesn't make any difference. Little issues always become big issues. It's a lie if you think they don't. There's this verse, and we looked at this verse several months ago in the Song of Songs. And it says this in Song of Songs 2:15. Catch the foxes for us, the little foxes that spoil the vineyards, for our vineyards are in blossom. And this is a poetic verse, but you know what it's really saying? There's these little things in your marriage that don't feel like big deals. She doesn't know about it. It won't hurt her. He's never even seen it. Doesn't matter. There's these little foxes that over time can become big issues. I mean, look how he describes their relationship. It's like a vineyard that's in blossom, but there's these little foxes, there's these little issues that are running around inside. And over time, they get bigger and they get bigger and they get bigger. Unresolved anger, a critical spirit, hidden spending, the things you look at when your spouse isn't around. They're just little things. They're like little foxes that run around. And over time, they become big things. You know, I did some reading on this verse. I'm not an expert on foxes. You know what foxes like to do in vineyards? They like to dig at the roots. And you don't even know that they're there. If you're just looking at the vineyard, it's like, hey, that looks great, everything's growing. But they're digging at the roots, and things are dying. In marriage, sometimes your marriage can look awesome, but there's something digging at the roots. In relationships, there's something digging at the roots. There's these little foxes that you don't deal with them. They're just small, but they become big things. Here are 4 lies that keep our marriages from being better. I can change him. I can change her. And so I nag and I complain and I whine and I cry, and they don't change. Second lie is this. Honestly, I don't have to change. I look around and I don't see anything about me that has to change in this marriage. It's legitimate that there's things my spouse has to, but I don't have to change any. It's a lie. Here's a lie. Marriage is 50-50. You get 50% at school, that's a failing grade. But marriage, 50-50, and we're going to somehow succeed? No athlete who gives 50% wins. No spouse who gives 50% wins. The last lie, the little things won't become big things. It's just a secret. It's no big deal. It's nothing. Nothing will ever come of it. It'll just get bigger. So here's what I know. That no marriage that's watching or here in this room, no marriage will get better just because we talked about it for a half hour or so. Doesn't work that way. But here's a really important truth about marriage, and that's this truth kind of extends to everything that we're going to talk about in this series. Here's the marriage truth. There is always hope for a better marriage. There's always hope for a better relationship. No matter what word popped into your mind when we said marriage, there's always hope for better. Because here's the truths that are really behind the lies. God can change him or her. There are things about your spouse that probably have to change. God can change them. And here's another truth. God can change you. God can show you the things that actually have to change in you. And it may not be that, there's one for one change. Maybe one has to change this much, but God can do that. The third is this: marriage is about 100%. Could I outdo my spouse in love and honor and commitment and sacrifice, rather than I've done one good thing, now you got to do one good? Could I do that? That's the truth. Can I outdo my spouse in good, not just 50-50? And you can deal with little things and the big things. They can be fixed with a lot of work and effort. The lie is that little things don't become big things. The truth is this: you can work through big things and little things. And you can work really hard so little things don't become big things. There's always hope for a better marriage. There's this great verse we looked at the first week we started this series back, I think it was probably Labor Day weekend or whatever. But this verse is the promise that your marriage, your relationships can be better. It's found in Ephesians 3:20. Now to him who is able to do far more abundantly than all that we ask or think. Your marriage can be better. And that's true of those marriages that aren't like, horrible. Every marriage can be better. There's a step up for every marriage. And let me make an advertisement. Starting the first part of October, we're having a life group here at Hidden Valley on marriage. And if you're interested, you can just put, on your communication card, say, I'd like more information about that life group. And here's what you need to know. This life group is not for marriages that are in critical condition. It's a life group for marriages that want better. It's a life group for people who maybe aren't married yet, but they'd like better if and when they are. So it's not like if you sign up for this, we're going to that means their marriage is not good. It's for people who want better. Better should be the goal of every marriage. So this is not just for, condition critical, red alert type marriage. I'd like better. So if you're interested in that, please sign up for that. So Jesus came to earth to make things better, including our marriages. There's this great verse, 2 Corinthians 5:18 says this, and all this is a gift from God who brought us back to himself through Christ. It's through what Jesus did on the cross, dying in our place, rising from the dead, we can have a right relationship with God. And guess what? We can have a right relationship with our spouse, with our friends, with our family members because of what Jesus did for us. There is hope for better. Just kind of got to get past the lies. And for some of us, we need to start with that relationship with God. And you simply tell Jesus as we close that you want a relationship with God. And hey, by the way, I'd like a better relationship with my spouse as well. 4 lies, 1 truth. There is hope for a better marriage. Let's pray. God, I thank you for Jesus. I thank you that Jesus actually can make our marriages better, not just our relationship with you. He died in our place. He took our sin, and we can have a better relationship with you, but we can also have a better relationship with our spouses and other people. God, I pray that that's the kind of thing that we would aim for, that even the worst and the most difficult of marriages listening today, there would be hope, because Jesus is hope. In his name I pray, amen. Before we go, we've got some announcements we'd like to make. First of all, this is the last Sunday for our monthly serving focus. We're taking food for assistance for Iowa County. And if you look at there, there's certain things you bring on different days. And obviously, with the month falling short, if you want to put some money, there's a bucket out on our information center. You can just throw some loose change or whatever in there. And then on an offering envelope, if you just write MSF, 100% of the funds would go towards that. And if you want to help with that, we would really appreciate it. Because we have October coming up, the first Monday of every month, we have something called the Power of Prayer. And we will just gather here, and we're going to pray for one another. We're going to pray for the church. It lasts about an hour or so. You can come. If you don't feel like praying, you just want to be prayed for, or just kind of be with people who are praying, that's perfectly fine. No expectations, but just show up, and we will pray. And then in 2 weeks, we're starting something that we've been doing for the past, 2 or 3 years. But during the fall and early winter months, we have breakfast once a month. So 2 weeks from now, instead of the wonderful smell of popcorn, you'll smell things like bacon and sausage and pancakes and syrup. And we would strongly encourage you 2 weeks from now to stay after, have breakfast, meet somebody, that person who sits there and you've never met their name. It's just a great opportunity. It's a great Sunday to bring someone to church because you can say, hey, you get breakfast out of the deal. So we would love to have people visit on that. So that's 2 Sundays from now, October 9th. If you want to be here, that would be awesome. It's always a fun time. If you're interested in helping serve, we have a team for that day. But if you'd like to be a part of that groups, that kind of helps us over about a 5-6 month period of time, once a month. Just let us know. Put that on your information card, and we'll kind of put you on the team, and then in the upcoming months, sign you up for that. Do you take that connection card? Please fill it out. If you have a prayer request, put that on there. We have a group of people who pray for you. That's also the place if you're interested in that marriage life group, put that on there. If you have a question about why we do something or any kind of question, please put that on there. We will get back in touch with you. Give us your contact information so we can keep in contact with you, especially if you're visiting us. We have or if you're a first-time visitor, we have a gift for you. So we'd love to hear from you on that. If you can, stay and help us put the chairs away. We'd greatly appreciate that and put them against the wall. I'll be down front. I'd love to meet you, pray with you. Thanks for being here. Before you go today, take the time to meet somebody and say you're really glad to see them. Have a great day.